internet! Today I'm here to do my February wrap-up. February may be the shortest month of the year, but I actually finished 9 books in February, which I'm really excited about. Pretty much almost all of them were ones I enjoyed as well. I don't think I read any that I didn't like. So it was a really good reading month, and since I have 9 books to talk about, let's just jump right into it. The first book I read in the month of February was The Witch Doesn't Burn in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is a poetry collection by Amanda, and it's part of a trilogy, and this is the second book. I really enjoyed this poetry collection. I don't think I liked it as much as her first one, but there were a lot of really good poems in here, and I definitely did enjoy it. I enjoyed a lot of the feminist themes as well. And I'm really looking forward to reading the next one that just came out. The only thing that kind of hindered my enjoyment on this one a little bit is I just felt like there was too much breaking up of a lot of the poems. Normally that doesn't bother me because that's just the kind of poet she is, and it didn't bother me with the first book, but for some reason in this one it bothered me more. I don't know if there was just more of it or if it just didn't feel as natural. I'm not really sure, but it kind of annoyed me at times, but I still really loved the content enough where I let it go. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. That was also one of the books I read for the Feminist Lit February reading challenge. The next 2 books I read were actually rereads for me, the first of which is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I decided that I needed to reread the Grisha trilogy before I could read King of Scars because I really just didn't remember enough. I remember a lot more of the Six of Crows duology than I did this trilogy, so I wanted to give it a reread, starting with Shadow and Bone. I've been getting the CD audiobooks from my library because they don't have the digital audiobooks available, and I've just been reading them in my car. So this is the first book in the Grisha trilogy, and this is my second time reading it. I stuck with my original rating of 4 stars. I really like this book, but it's nothing that's like, it doesn't blow me away or anything. It didn't when I read it the first time, and it didn't rereading it either. It's definitely a solid story and a solid first book in a series, and I really enjoyed it. But I stuck with my 4-star rating. I am really glad that I decided to start rereading these books though, because I really didn't remember much. So I will continue rereading these as I'm able to get the discs, and eventually I'll get to read King of Scars. So like I said, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars as well. And the second book that I reread this month is A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. This is the 3rd and final book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. It's my favorite V.E. Schwab book, and I adored it just as much the second time as I did when I first read it, closer to when it came out. Like I said, I adore this book, I adore the series. This is my favorite book by her. This is just such a great conclusion to this trilogy. If you don't know what this trilogy is about, the first book, A Darker Shade of Magic, is about this guy named Kel, who is one of the only Antari still around, and Antari are able to travel in between worlds. So this series is set in London, and there are 4 kind of versions of London that exist. There's Red London, Black London, White London, and Grey London. And Kel lives with the royal family in Red London, and he is in charge of transporting messages back and forth between Red London and Grey London. But he also smuggles a lot of things, and one time on one of his trips to Grey London, he runs into a thief named Delilah Bard, and chaos ensues, and it's great. Yeah, this book, it's my fave. Obviously I gave it 5 stars, and it was just so much fun rereading it. The narrator for the audiobooks for the series is really good. There's one that voices all the male characters, and then another one that voices all the female characters, and they do a really good job. I definitely enjoyed my reread of the series, and I'm so glad that I got a chance to reread this. The next book I read was another one on my Feminist Lit February TBR, and that is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This is a book I've been meaning to read for a very long time. It's a YA contemporary. It's about this girl named Alex who lost her sister a few years ago after her sister was murdered, and kind of how Alex has been dealing with it and how she's gotten revenge for it at the same time. This book deals a lot with rape culture, and I think that it definitely packs a punch. The characters definitely do some questionable things in this book, but it was written in a way where it was made obvious that that was the point, and it was the point to explore those questionable things and why they were questionable. We follow 3 different perspectives: Alex, her friend PK, and Jack. And I really liked seeing all the different events unfold and going back and forth between all their different perspectives. Definitely my favorite thing about this book was the friendship between Alex and PK. They just had such a really great female friendship and it was very supportive, and I just really enjoyed that aspect of the story. I think that friendship was written very, very well, and I think that this was an important story to tell. I'm glad that I finally got to read it, and I understand why people refer to this whenever rape culture in books is being discussed, because I think that it did it very well. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was also for Feminist Lit February, and that was Dear Madam President, An Open Letter to the Women Who Will Run the World by Jennifer Palmieri. So the author was actually worked in the White House. She worked for both President Clinton and President Obama, and she worked on Hillary's campaign during the 2016 election, which I didn't know all of that, honestly. I basically, when I bought this book, I bought it because it was on sale, and I bought it kind of just on an impulse. But this was very short. It's kind of part inspirational, part a behind-the-scenes look at the election, and then part memoir for the author herself. I think I found the memoir part the most interesting, honestly, but I think that the author had a lot of really cool things to say, and getting that kind of behind-the-scenes look at the election was very interesting. This book is meant to be kind of like a letter to whoever is going to be the first female president, whoever that ends up being. And I like that idea. But I enjoyed this. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well. The next book I read, I actually started in January, and I just didn't finish it in time, and that is The Sword of Summer, which is the first book in the Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard series by Rick Riordan. I've been wanting to start a new Rick Riordan series because I still have several of his series to finish, and I decided to make Magnus Chase my next one. I really enjoyed this first book. I thought it was a really, really good first book in a trilogy. I don't think it's probably my least favorite first book out of the series of his I've read so far, but I still really, really liked it. I don't know a whole lot about Norse mythology, so I feel like I learned a lot more reading this than I have his Greek and Roman series, because I already kind of knew some things about those mythologies. But I really liked Magnus Chase as a main character, and I think this is going to be a very, very interesting series. I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of where the story goes. And I thought the representation was really, really good as well. Magnus himself is homeless. There is another main character who is Muslim and another main character who is deaf. And I thought all of those things were done really, really well. Obviously, I am not Muslim and I am not deaf or homeless, so I can't speak to it from a personal standpoint. But as an outsider, I think that he did a pretty good job of being respectful of all those things, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where the story is going. So I'm really excited to read the next one. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. A lot of 4-star reads this month, but that's not a bad thing. Then I decided to participate in Create-a-thon, and I only technically finished one book during Create-a-thon, and that book was Pride by Evie Zaboy. So this is a modern-day Pride and Prejudice retelling set in the Bronx. So if you know the story of Pride and Prejudice, you can pretty much figure out what this is about, but we follow a main character, Zuri, who lives with her family in kind of a smaller apartment. Her and her 4 sisters share a room together, like a big room. And all of a sudden, this new kind of richer family moves in across the street, and Zuri does not get along with one of the boys of the family, Darius. I like Pride and Prejudice. It was never a book that I absolutely obsessed over and loved like a lot of people did, but I enjoyed the story, and I really like retellings of it, and I thought that this was a very good one. I really liked finding all the different nods to the original story, and all of the characters' names were very similar to what character they were supposed to represent from the original story. And I thought that she did a really good job telling this in a modern way. It definitely gave me Lizzie Bennet vibes at some points, just because of the way the characters would talk, because they're both modern adaptations. But I thought this was a really fun story. I think the author did a good job of kind of talking about the different prejudices when it comes to having money and not having money. And if you do really love Pride and Prejudice, this is definitely a book that you should check out for sure, because there are so many references. It's great. And I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars as well. The next book I finished like the day after Create-a-thon finished, and I was so mad. But that book was Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. This is a book I've owned for a long time. It's a YA fantasy about this pirate named Alosa, and she is the daughter of the Pirate King. But she ends up getting kidnapped by these other pirates, but what they don't realize is that she did it on purpose because she's on a secret mission for her father. This was a really fun story. I loved Alosa as a main character, and the banter between her and the, what's the term? Not the captain. kind of the co-captain, I guess, of the ship, was just great. It was great. I was living for it. This was just a really fun feminist kind of pirate story, and I was very, very into it. There is a sequel because this is a duology, and I haven't gotten my hands on it yet, but I'm hoping that it'll be just as fun as this one. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars as well. But actually, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, so I'm glad I finally got around to reading it. And the last book that I read was The Silver Chair, which is the 4th book in publication order and the 6th book in chronological order for the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. The Silver Chair is one of the only Narnia books I had never read before, and I liked it. I didn't realize that Eustace was in the Silver Chair, but I liked that we followed a different character's perspective, Jill. I liked her as a main character, and I got pretty into the story. I kind of lost focus somewhere along the way towards the end, but I think that was more so of the fact that I was listening to it instead of reading it, and somehow once I got lost, I had a hard time getting back. So I don't fault the story for that, that's my own fault. But I'm glad I finally got around to reading this story. I really enjoyed it. We also get to see Caspian as like an old man, which was interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I finally got around to it, and shocker, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. That's it for my February wrap-up. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I read in February, and let me know what you thought about them. And I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye.